Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. This is Style with Chika, and in today's video I'll be showing you how to make a simple pair of shorts. I got this inspiration from Pinterest and this is my own recreation. If you'd love to learn how to make yours, keep on watching and I'll walk you through the process step by step. I'll also be stating tips that would help you avoid errors. Before we dive in, don't forget to like this video if you find it very helpful. Subscribe to the channel for more amazing sewing content and drop your questions or your thoughts in the comment section. I'd love to hear from you, and let's get started. To make this shirt, I'm making use of 1 yard of black fabric. This black fabric is crepe, okay? It has a very good consistency. It is not stretchy either. So I'm going to be drafting the pattern with my pattern paper, and I'll use my pattern paper to cut out on my fabric. These are the body measurements that you'll be needing. You want to take your waist measurements, your hip measurements, your thigh measurements. Take your thigh measurements at the fullest part of your thigh. Then you want to take your crotch measurements. Then you also take your short length, as long as you may want it to be or as short as you may want it to be. For this black fabric here, it's 1 yard, but then depending on your size, your length and your preference, you may want to get at least 1.5 yard, but I'm going to be making use of 1 yard for this. So on your pattern paper, draw out a straight line. This is going to be your starting line. So you're going to take your measurements this way first. So you're going to take your waistband measurement. If you want your waistband to be very bold, you can use as much as 2 inches, but I don't want my waistband to be as much as 2 inches, so I'm going to be making use of 1.5 inches. So whatever you want your waistband to be, take that measurement and place it on this line, which is our starting line. For me, I am making use of 1.5 inches because I do not want my waistband to be too big. So I'm taking 1.5 inches, I'm placing it on this starting line. So from this line, you want to mark out your hip line. So my hip line, I'm marking it out at 8.5 inches, which is just right here. So I've left a mark at 8.5 inches, like you can see. Then I'll take my crotch measurement. So my crotch measurement here I have is 11 inches. I'll mark out 11 inches like this. So next I'm going to take my short length, and my short length is 17 inches. So I'll take my tape to 17 inches and then I'll leave a mark. But then for the sewing allowance of this shirt, I'm going to be adding 3 inches extra. So that's 1, 2, 3. I'll be leaving my mark at 20 inches. Just like this, and I'll go ahead and extend these lines like you can see. So for better understanding, I've labeled these lines. This is my waistline, this is my hip line, this is my crotch line, my short length, and then my allowance, which I'll be using to hem in the edge of the shirt so it looks very neat. At this edge, I made another allowance by coming in by 1 inch on the side like this. Then I ruled a straight line across this point. So this allowance here will not be part of the measurements we'll be taking, okay? So any measurements I take, you'd observe that I'm only going to be measuring this side. Just watch and you'd understand. So first, I want to take my hip measurements. I have already divided my hip measurement by 4, so this is the measurement I'm going to be using. So my hip measurement is 11 inches. So I'm going to take 11 inches, but because this is a tailored short, you do not want it to be too fitted to your body. It's not going to look very nice. So 11 inches, I'm going to add just an extra allowance of ½ inch to it. So ½ inch now, 11.5 inch now becomes my standard measurement that I'll be using for this shirt. So I'm going to make this 11.5. Please do not add too much allowance, because if you add plenty of allowance, it's going to make your shorts to be baggy on you. So I'm making use of 11.5 inch. So I'm taking 11.5 inch now, and I'm going to be marking that out on my hip line right here. I'll take this 11.5 inches also, and I'll mark it out on my crotch line. I'll also mark it out on my waistline, just right here. And now I'll go ahead and connect these 3 points with a straight line, just like you can see me doing. So next, I'm going to take my round tie measurement, which is this one here. I have already divided it by 2, but then just like I added ½ inch to my hip measurement, I'll add ½ inch to my round tie measurement. So instead of 14, I'll be making use of 14.5 inches. So I'll take 14.5 inches and then I'll mark it out on my crouch line, which is just right here. Okay, just right here, I'll mark out 14.5 inches like this. So after I've marked out 14.5 inches, what I want to do now is to take my curved ruler and I'll be connecting it to my waist just like this. So after I've done this, on my allowance line here, I'm going to take this measurement again, but without the ½ inch. So I'm going to mark in 14 inches on this line instead of 14.5. This is because going down, your legs get smaller, okay? Going down, your legs get smaller. So I'm going to mark in just 14 inches instead of 14.5. And then from this crouch line here to my allowance, I'll connect with a straight line just like this. So next, I'm going to come to my waistline and I will take my waist measurement divided by 4, which I've already done here, which is 7.75. So I'll take this measurement and from this point, I'm going to mark out 7.75 right here. So for the darts that I have for my shorts, I'm going to be adding an extra 1 inch of allowance to it. So this becomes my new point, and I'm going to be connecting this point to meet my hip line with a curve just like this. Alright, so next on this waistline here, I'm going to come down by ½ inch like this. Just come down by ½ inch and then connect upward to meet this point here. This is just a little slope, okay? So now this becomes my bodies for my shorts. This is very easy to do. But then I'm going to be adding my stitching allowance on this piece. For my stitching allowance, I'm just going to be making use of ½ inch to stitch this all around. So to do that now, from the edge here, I'll take ½ inch. And just like you can see me doing, I'm going to mark ½ inch all around. Alright, so I've successfully added ½ inch of allowance all around this point like this. I did not bother adding allowance to the length, and on this upper part I'll be transferring my allowance directly on my material. So I'll go ahead and cut this out. This becomes my front piece. So for your back piece, just take another piece of pattern paper and take your front piece, place it right on top of it, but make sure that you have allowance at the top part here and make sure you have allowance at the side. Alright, so I'm going to pin this down to the pattern paper so it doesn't move around while we take our measurements. So after I've pinned this down, I'm going to come to my crouch line here and I'll be adding an extra allowance of 2.5 inches to the side here. So now I'll come to my allowance line and I'll just be adding as much as 2 inches here. So you're not adding the same thing. Here I added 2.5 and here I added 2 inches. So I'll go ahead and extend this line like this. So next I'm going to come to this waistline here. So you want to pay attention to this part. At the waistline here, from this corner, I'm going to come in by 1.5 inches. You can come in as much as 2 inches. So when I come in by 1.5 inches here, I'm going to come up by 1 inch. Now this is why I'm coming up by 1 inch. It is because of my bum. Okay, so depending on the size of your bum, you want to know the amount of allowance you should add. You can add as much as 2 inches if you have a big bum. Some people that have even bigger bums can use as much as 2 to 3 inches. Okay, but then if you feel like you don't need it because your bum may be a little bit on the smaller side, you can just leave it as though, or just add as little as half of an inch. But for me, I'm going for 1 inch. So at this point here, I'm going to draw this line upward just like this. All right, so now what I'm going to do now is to take the full measurement that I have on the front part here. So on my front part here, I'm going to measure my waistline fully. What I have here is about 10.5 inches. So I'll come to this upper part, I'll place my tape here, and I'll mark out that 10.5 inches right here. So now when I have this 10.5 inches, I'll extend this front line, and then I'll connect this upper part here to this line that I have just created. So with that, now you have your slope going upward. If you look at your trousers, your ready-made trousers that you buy, you'd always notice that the back is higher than the front, and this is why. So from this point now, I'll connect into my hip line just like this. So the back one may be a little bit straight. It's straight for me. Okay, so I've connected into my hip line just like this. So what I'm going to do now is to connect this new point here to my crouch line. All right, this new point here, I'll connect to my crouch line. So I'll just move this aside. All right, and I'll just connect it like you can see me doing, making use of my ruler, so it's going all the way outward. Alright, so this is what I have. I'll just go ahead and cut it out. This becomes my back piece. Alright guys, so now this is what I have for my front, and this is what I have for my back. So when I am cutting this out, I'm going to be making use of these patterns. Alright, so let's go ahead and cut out on our fabric. So now I've used my pattern piece to cut out on my fabric, and this is what it looks like. I have 2 pieces of each. I have 2 pieces here, and I have 2 pieces here. So I'm going to take my darts on this pattern paper now. To do that, you're just going to take your nipple to nipple measurements divided by 2. Okay, so my nipple to nipple measurement is 8, so I'm going to divide 8 by 2, which is 4 inches for me, and I'll take that 4 inches, I'm placing it on this line, not on the line of the allowance, and from here I'm going to just leave a mark like you can see. So this mark now is for this dart allowance that we added here earlier during the cutting. Okay, so I'm going to just leave a mark here, and from here I'm going to take this front piece, and then I'll place it on top of this back piece like this, and I'll just transfer that mark I have to the pattern just like you can see. So this mark point that I have made now is for my darts. So what you're just going to do is make use of your scissors to leave a notch. By folding your material, just leave a little cut. That is what is called a notch. Okay, a little cut that will help you to identify where the line is. I'll do the same thing to this other part. So now these are what my notches look like here and here. So let's start sewing. So to start sewing, I'm going to start with this back piece. So I'm just going to sew down on the crotch line by half of an inch, and then I'll take my dart. Well, my dart is going to be 4.5 inch in length. So after I was done sewing on my dart, this is what it looked like. Alright, this is what it looks like at the back, and this is what it looks like at the front. I also went ahead to sew along my crouch line, and this is what it's looking like. So let's work on our front piece now. Alright guys, so to work on my front piece is going to have a pocket. It's also going to have a zipper flyer. So to do that now, I've cut out my pocket piece. I have 2 pieces of this, okay? The length of this is 11 inches, and from this side it is 16 inches. So I'm going to take my front piece of my shirt now, just like you can see me doing. I want to make a curve here that the pockets would have. So to do that, from this edge here, I am going to come in by 1.5 inches, just like this. And after leaving a mark at 1.5 inches, I'm going to come down by 7 inches, just like this. And from this point to this point, I'm going to connect it with a straight line this way. Now what I'm going to do is to take my pocket piece. I have the 2 of them laying here together, and I'll just take this one and place it directly on top of it, just by the edge, okay? And from this corner now, I'm going to cut all 4 pieces together, just like this. Now this is what I have for the pocket, and this is what I have for the pocket piece also. All right, just like you can see, I'm folding my pocket this way, and I'm just going to make a curve for the pocket. I want my pocket here, the base, to be a little bit curved, so I'm just curving it. This is very much optional, okay? So I'm going to repeat the same process to this other one. So now these are what I have for my 2 pockets. So to start sewing, I'll do one side, and whatever I do to one side is what I'll do to the other side. So now that I have this piece, this is my back side, okay? So this is my front side. I'll take my pockets here. From the side that I have cut, I will place them right sides facing each other like this, just like you can see. And when I place them right sides facing each other, I will sew down on it by 1/2 an inch, just like this. So I'll sew down on 1/2 an inch. So after I've sewn on it this way, I'll open this up, just like you can see me doing. And then this stitch that I have here, this rough edge that I have here, I'm going to top stitch it to the lining piece, just like this. To top stitch, you just have to flip this part that you have sticking out here to your lining part, and then you're going to sew down on it. So I'll go ahead and do that. So after top stitching on it, you should have your piece relaxing to your lining part, and you should also have the front looking very neat and relaxed, just like this. Okay, so now to close this pocket, I'll just turn it over, just like you can see me doing. All right, so I'll take this piece now and I'll close it up like this. So you just want to arrange this part of the pocket that you see curved here to be directly at the edge of your material, okay? You just want to hold it down like this to be directly at the edge of your material. What you can do here is to pin this down right on top of it like this. And once I pin this down now, I'll open this part up like this, and then I'll just sew the edge of the pocket here to this very end. I'll sew all across here to close it down, and after I sew on it, I'll put this back in place and also sew this top piece to the pockets very well at the side so it's relaxed. So after I have sewed it this way, this is what it looks like, and at the back now it's closed, so this means that the pocket is totally closed at this side. All right, so for the top part now, because I've not taken my dart, I'll just arrange this way, and I'll open this up and I'll sew from this part here, that's where I have my top stitch. I'll sew down this way to close it up, and I'll give all of this a very good press. So after I've given it a good press, this is what it looks like totally. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do here is to take my dart. For my dart, I am going to take it by 2 inches downward. So what I'm going to do is take my tape, place it just right here, and then I will mark 2 inches downward. So I'm going to close this off here, and I'll mark 2 inches downward, sorry. And after I mark 2 inches downward, what I'll do is to sew on 1/2 inch, just like this. Alright, so I'm going to sew and stop here. I will not curve this way. I will just sew and stop here because this side is going to be opened up. Alright, so it's going to be like a pleat. Alright, I'm just going to sew 2 inches downward and I'll stop just right here. So guys, I have now sewn on it and I just went on to iron it very flat. So this is what it looks like from the front. Okay, it'll be looking like this, very beautiful. So now I'm going to place my pocket back just in place, and what I'll do now is to join this piece and my pocket together. I'll sew down on it. So now I've gone ahead to join on it, and this is what it's looking like. So I want to make sure that my waist measurement is on point. Remember that this is a fitted short, so we don't need any extra allowance. So now I'm just going to measure my waist, what I have from here to here. What I have from here to here is 10 inches, but my waist measurement divided by 4 is approximately 8 inches. Remember that what I had is 7.75, but I want to use 8 inches so that I can have a little bit of ease. In case I eat, I'll be comfortable because this is a fitted short, so you don't want it to be too tight. Okay, so I'm just using 8 inches. So this is where I have 8 inches, so which means I have extra 2 inches of allowance, which I do not need. What I need here is just 1 inch of allowance. So because of that, I'm going to mark out my measurement at 9 inches here, just like this. So from this 9 inches point, I'm just going to take my ruler and form another hip curve again. Remember that I have cut out my hip curve because of this pocket, so now I am forming it back again, and I will trim this out again. Okay, so now this is what it's looking like. So everything I've done here, I'll do it to the other side of the shorts. So after I've done both sides, this is what it looks like. Now I'm going to work on my zipper. For a zipper, I'm using this normal short zip, and this short zip is just by length 9.5 inches. Okay, so I'm going to be placing it on this side of the shirt, but then to avoid that part of the shirt that looks like it's gathering around here, we're going to stop this zipper at the break point of our shirt. The break point of our shorts is this part that starts to curve. Okay, we do not want the zipper to get to this part, so we're going to stop the zipper somewhere around here. With that, it will be able to pass our hip line. Okay, so this is where the zipper is going to be stopping. So now to work on my zipper, I have cut these pieces of fabric, and this one here is by length 8.5 inches. Around this top part, it is 4.5 inches, and at this lower part, it is 3.5 inches. So just make sure that you're curving it out this way. Okay, so mine is just a little bit slanted like this. And then for this one, it is also 8.5 in length, but then at this corner, I just went ahead to give it a little curve. This is also very optional. So to start sewing on my shirt, I'll start with this piece here. I'm going to place it on this one, right sides facing each other, just like you can see me doing. So right sides facing each other now, I am going to sew on 1/2 inch, and I'm going to stop at this place that I have called the break point. Okay, so I'm just going to join these two pieces like this on 1/2 inch, and then I'll top stitch it to this piece that I have here. Okay, so now that I've sewn from this point to this point, okay, you can see that I have some sticking out here. I did not sew down everything, so I'm just going to trim it out. All right, I'll trim it out just like you can see me doing, but while trimming, I'll just try and follow that curve, which is actually optional, but I like to have it in my shorts. So now what I'm going to do is open this up this way, and I'm going to top stitch it this way. So guys, after doing just that, you would have this zipper flyer resting directly to the side like this. So you're going to just go ahead and give it a very good press so that it relaxes and it's easy for you to work on. So now that I've given this a good press and it's resting very well to the side, I'm going to take my zipper, I'll place it right on top of it. But please notice that this silver part here, I'm not going to place it directly on the starting line, okay? I'll just place it this way, a little bit downward, just like you can see. Then I'm going to take my pin and then I'll hold on to my zip, just like you can see me doing. So I'm just going to open this up, like you can see me doing. And then I'll sew on this side of the zipper, I'll sew it down to this flyer that I have here. So after I've sewn down on it, this is what it looks like, okay? You can see what it's looking like. I'll work on the other part of the zipper now. For the other part of the zipper, I have this. So what I'm going to do is to fold it in two and I'll give it a good press. So now that I've worked on this, this is what it looks like. So I'm just going to place it this way and I'll take my zipper here and I'll place it right on top of it, just like you can see me doing, and I'll sew down on it to join the two pieces together. So now I have sewed down on it and this is what it looks like. All right, this is what it looks like when you open up your zipper. It would look like this. So now I'm going to take the other side of my shirt, just like this, and what I'll do is to turn this over this way. So now I'm placing this right sides facing each other and I'll just sew from the starting point down also to the break points of this side of the shirt, okay? So I'm going to start sewing from this starting point, and just like I marked out the break points of this side, I'll do the same thing to this side and I'll sew and stop right there. So now after I've sewed on this to the break point, I'll just open this up like this and I will top stitch on it. So I'll top stitch from where I started to where I stopped sewing at, okay? I'll just sew down on it. So now that I've top stitched on this, this is what I have this looking like. So I'll just take this and flip it over to the back. So what I'll do now is from the two break points, I'll hold them together just like this, just like I can see me doing. I'm holding the two break points together and then I'll sew from the top here and I'll sew down on 1/2 of an inch to close up the remaining part of the crouch. So after I have sewn on the remaining part of the crouch line from the break point, this is what it looks like from the back and this is what it is looking like from the front, okay? So I still have a little hole inside of this space and that can easily be covered up by sewing a curved line here. So if you look at your trousers, you know that line that you usually see coming from this point all the way here. That's what I'm about to do. So you can just measure at least 1 inch away or 1.5 inches away from this edge to this one, and then you just want to curve, make the curve so that you can follow the line to sew on it. I'll usually do this by freehand, but I'm just illustrating to you how yours should look like, okay? So now on this line that you can see, maybe not so thick, just go ahead and sew on it and curve all the way here. So guys, now I'm going ahead to sew down on it. So I just made that curve which I demonstrated earlier, that curve that you usually see on the zipper flyer of your trousers. But please, to avoid errors when you are sewing, make sure that this one is not in the way until you get somewhere around the base. That's where you can add it in when you're making that stitch on top. Else this zipper is going to be closed and you'll not be able to open it. So this is what it looks like. All right, this is what the zipper looks like, but if I had sewed on it, it would have been closed and I would have not been able to open it. So make sure to avoid that error when you are sewing. So this is all I have for my zipper flyer, and this is what it is looking like. All right, so let's go ahead and join the front and the back together. So to join my front and my back together, I'll just place them right sides facing each other, and then I'll sew on both sides from the waist to the base. I'll sew on both sides by 1/2 of an inch. Now I've gone ahead to hem in the edge of the shirt, and this is what I have. I also sewed down on this side. So I'm going to work on my waistband. So for my waistband, I'm going to have my exact waist measurement here. My exact waist measurement is at 31 inches. And what I have here is 15 and a half. So 15 and a half by 2 is 31 inches. So now I have my waistband, which I have already cut out. This waistband here, it is 5 inches by width, and then for the length of the waistband, I just left or cut out as much as 35 inches. This extra allowance here is added allowance for the zipper flyer area. So the first thing I'm going to do is to iron this in place like this. I'll iron it in two, and then at this corner here, I'm going to iron this like this. Okay, I'll iron this like this before ironing in two again. All right, so guys, now I'm gonna have to prepare my waistband. You can see how I ironed it out. Okay, I folded one in, ironed it, and then ironed it the second time again. I do hope you understand this method. Just look at it and then replicate what you see. All right, and do that to the very end of the material. So before I attach this waistband, I want to attach my belt hose. So I have about 7 of this. So I'll be attaching one to where I have my darts. Okay, I'll attach one here, just like you can see. I'll attach one here. I'll attach one at my second dart. At the 2 side seams, I'll attach one, and then when I turn it over to the back, I'll also attach it at my back darts and at the middle line of my back. All right, so I'll just sew down on it by 1/2 inch, just like this. All right, I'll sew down on it just like this. So to attach the waistband to the waist, you want to pin the waistband to the short, the waist of the short, and you're going to pin it from back to front. Leave 1/2 inch of allowance at the side of the short, like you can see. I did not start pinning from the exact edge. I left 1/2 inch of allowance at the side, and I did the same thing to both sides. So just go ahead and pin round the shorts from back to front. Okay, we're sewing from back to front. Don't pin it at the front, pin it at the back, just like you can see me demonstrating to you. So you're going to hold down everything so this doesn't get tricky. So from the edge now, I'm going to sew on 1/2 inch to join these pieces together. So now after I've sewn on it and I turn it over, this is what it looks like from the back. So this 1/2 inch now that I left here, what I'm going to do is to fold it in this way, just like you can see me doing. All right, now that I folded it in this way, I'll sew down on it. So I'm going to trim out the excess that I have here, just like this, and then I'll turn it over to the right side, and you can see what this is already looking like after I turn it over to the right side. So I'll do the same thing to this other end. I'll turn it over like this, and I'll sew down on it. So guys, this is what it looks like from the front side. What I'm going to do now is to top stitch right on top of this. So you can see what it looks like after I have top stitched on it. This is what it looks like from the front, and this is what it looks like from the back. So you're just going to finish up your belt loops, and you're going to do it by folding it in this way, just like you can see me doing, and then you place it right on top of your waistband. So after that, you just turn it over like this, and you cut out any excess that you have. When I turn it back in, this is what it looks like, okay? And then this is what the other ones that I did looks like. So the next thing I'm going to do for this short is to create my buttonhole, and then I will attach my button to it, just like this. So after I was done sewing on the shorts, this is what it looked like. You can see that everything is looking very neat and professional. I went ahead to make my buttonhole and I added my button to it. So this is what it looks like from the front. I have my darts here, my side seam looking very neat, and this is what it looks like from the back. You can see this is very beautiful, and I do hope you found this tutorial very helpful. Let me know if you'll be trying this out in the comment section. If you have any questions, also let me know about them in the comment section. Leave a like if you find this video very helpful. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel for more amazing content, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.